This is the November 15th, 2022 meeting of the Acushnet Public Library Board of Trustees. We are being audio taped and videotaped, and we do have a quorum. First item on the agenda today is the Secretary's report from the regular session of October 18th and also the executive session of October 18th. Does anyone have any comments or clarifications to those minutes? If not,
I'll make a motion to accept those minutes.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next item is the budget.
So I've provided you with a to-date budget snapshot. And I think it's pretty straightforward and certainly on track with where we want to be at this point in the fiscal year. I don't feel there's anything out of the ordinary to report. If it looks very different to you than it did the last time, then certainly please let me know. But the only additions really are, salary lines, of course, have been spent out more. We just got the most recent Eversource bill, so that line would look a little bit different, the energy line, and we've just been spending normally through the other lines. So unless you have questions, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Any of you have anything?
No.
Okay.
Make a motion to accept the budget.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
We have no old business. It's all new this week. This month, I should say. We have the FY24 budget.
So as you know, I met with Nancy and Steve. They are your budget committee for the trustees. I met with them last week and we reviewed the budget draft, which I sent to everyone. And I also sent you the notes that go along with it. We've been asked to submit more than one version, so that what you're approving today are both versions to be submitted. Don't really know what to say, aside from, I just want to talk about the notes a little bit that I sent to you, specifically to talk about that municipal appropriation requirement. Because on anything that happens during the budget season, it's super important that the trustees remember and that we reiterate to the finance committee when we meet with them and to the board of selectmen when we present to them and certainly our town administrator that the library has to meet the municipal appropriation requirement every fiscal year. That's paramount to our state aid and our state certification. So the municipal appropriation requirement for FY24 is $289,649. So whatever is approved has to meet that requirement. And as I outlined for you in the notes, oh, there go the lights again. Wait. Pay no attention to the flashing lights here.
Do we pay the
They did this when I met to talk about the budget with Nancy and Steve, and I've been in this room for hours and they have not done this. So this is just strange that we're talking about the budget again.
Weren't they looking for Marie Howard?
Yes, they were recently looking for
maybe
Marie Howard in here.
Maybe she's coming to visit.
She feels very passionately about this budget season. So hopefully this doesn't disturb any of you more than I've just disturbed this meeting with the lights. But the municipal appropriation requirement is figured out or is calculated by using the current fiscal year and the 2 previous years. You add the appropriated budgets for those years together, you divide by 3, you multiply by 1.25, and you get what the requirement will be for the next fiscal year. So we know what our requirement is, and whatever we get, it has to meet that, because not meeting it, like I said, could have a severe impact to our certification, certainly, and our state aid. So the requests that are being submitted do meet the municipal appropriation requirement. And we really don't have an option to submit anything that does not meet the municipal appropriation requirement. And so what you're looking at does meet that requirement. In both budgets, you're seeing increases that are contractual per the AFSCME contract, which is the contract that the library technician staff and the custodian are in. So the budgets do account for those increases that they will receive. The other salaries are completely level funded for FY '24. We received a memo yesterday that we are not to add anything in for non-union personnel increase-wise. No COLA, no nothing. Same thing that's there for FY '23, which is a reminder is the same thing that was there in FY '22. And so that's salary, and then getting down into expenses, as I noted to you, the tech support line, which is paid to sales, that does have a contractual increase of 3.37%, which is a very modest increase. It's like $60. So that's hardly anything. And then there is a decrease of 11.98% to the sales expenses line. That's contractual, but the decrease is coming because they've made an adjustment to the formula that's used for determining what a library's membership fees will be. So that gives us a decrease of $830 about. And then also, you may remember for the past few fiscal years now that, sales gives us the estimated assessment, but every year the bill actually comes in a little bit less, a couple $1,000s less than what they estimated, and that's because they've been accounting for a telecommunications grant that they're receiving from the Mass Board of Library Commissioners. They've been accounting for that after sending the estimates, and libraries asked them this year to account for it before sending the estimates, so that we're getting most likely what the bill is going to be, and not a couple $1,000s more, because we wouldn't want anyone to think that every year we've got a cushion in that line, and that could be the message that would be sent if it happened over time or continued to happen. So that results in a decrease of over $2,000 to the line. So that's helped us out a little bit in terms of saving some money, so that our budgets aren't, our requests aren't, inflated by any means. This is pretty level. So aside from that, unless you have any specific questions.
I don't have any specific questions. I think it looks good the way that it is. Anybody have any comments?
The decrease in the sales, it's in here.
It's in there. Yep.
So that decreases his percent that he wanted, that he said that we had to come in less. Is that included in it?
I think it offsets what was requested a little bit.
Okay.
But,
So it brings it down.
We're submitting 2 budgets. We're asked to submit 3. We're submitting 2.
Yeah.
We cannot submit the 3rd budget, which is asking for a 5% decrease in expenses.
Because,
we cannot
yeah, we
submit
can't do that, no.
Because if we do, we will not hit the municipal appropriation requirement. So what they are getting is 2 budgets. Which
Okay.
I was not going to talk about on camera, but I'm going to say that. So I guess it's very transparent to everyone. They're getting 2 budgets.
Okay.
Because if we submit the 3rd, we do not meet the municipal appropriation requirement, and that cannot happen. I mean,
It's just not an option.
It's
Right.
not an
No.
option for us.
Good.
Our
For the
budget
library.
is one of the smallest budgets in town. We're talking about a total budget of, what did we talk about, $34 million?
Yes.
And our budget is less than $300,000.
Yeah.
I don't think a 5% cut is gonna help the town to our
Right.
budget. 5% of our expense line is about $3,000. So if the town needs money, they're looking in the wrong place if they're looking for it from us.
Right.
But even if it did help, we can't do it. It's
We can't
not-
do
it's
it,
not
correct.
an
That's an
option
excellent
for
point,
us,
Nancy. It's an
or
excellent
we would
point.
be shut down.
Correct.
We can't function without state aid, and if we don't meet our municipal requirement, we don't get the state aid, and we can't function without that.
Right.
So it's just not something we can even consider.
I had a question about the MAR. You said it was times 1.25, but here it says 1.025. Is that the correct number?
That is the
Okay.
correct, yeah, sorry, 1.025, yes, that's the correct number, yes, thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions or comments on the?
I think you did an outstanding
Yeah.
job.
The notes are good too.
Because this is not easy.
No.
It's a lot of work.
Trying to keep this building going with, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly places where we could have added, you know, in
Sure.
our expense line, where we could have requested increases, we didn't. We didn't request increases in any of our expense lines.
Yeah.
We could have, we didn't. And, you know, as, you know, the three of us talked about, we really, you know, think that what is here is fair to the library, and certainly is fair to request, you know, to make these requests to the finance committee and to the board of selectmen.
That's good.
No, I think it's outstanding.
Mhm.
I agree.
All right, we need a motion to approve this so that we can pass it forward and submit it to the town.
I make a motion to approve the budget, request A and request C.
I'll pass it. Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We did get a memo at 4 o'clock yesterday to say that these are due on the 28th, so with 2 weeks' notice. So I really appreciate that you, you know, we were able to get this together last week to get it on the agenda today, so that we can certainly meet that deadline in advance, which maybe no one's expecting that to happen. So you notice.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have the FY24 action plan.
So my apologies again for not submitting this to you, even though in the email it said, the first line was attached. But that didn't happen as clearly as I was
There
with
were
pride.
several there.
Yeah, there were a lot of attachments, yeah.
Just some
And,
slack there.
A lot of attachments. And also, you know, we were closed on Friday for Veterans Day, so I was trying to get it into you before Friday, because normally, as you know, I send things on Friday. But anyway, it's practically a carbon copy of what we had on file for FY23. Like I've explained to you, it's the action plan supports the strategic plan that we have on file. Our strategic plan expires, which I cannot believe that's already happening, on June 30th of 2023. So when that got submitted in 2017, it seemed like all of this was very far away on these dates, you know, like FY23, like that's impossible. But here we are, and it's expiring. The state does allow for a 2-year extension on strategic plans. So like we had kind of talked about in a meeting not that long ago, like my idea is that a year from now is when the library will start working on the next strategic plan, so that it's submitted by September of 2024 and plenty of time for when it needs to be updated, because we'll have run the 2 years almost at that point. So that's the thought, at least. That's the goal of the strategic plan, which is all about goals. So basically with the action plan that goes on file in support of the strategic plan, it just outlines all of the goals that we have for the library and all of the objectives that we have to reach those goals. So that doesn't change at all. What does change, or what should change a little bit, are the actions. But some of the actions end up being ongoing. Like we're constantly doing the same things to meet those objectives and goals. But in other cases, some of the actions we still haven't gotten to achieve because of staffing levels, primarily, let's say, because of staffing levels. That's the only thing I'm going to blame it on. So, we haven't established a schedule to visit the local middle school and invite the students to meet at the library. And we had kind of done that at one time, and then it's just kind of fallen to the wayside. So that's something I'd really love to see happen with this action plan. A lot of it that I'd love to see happen more regularly is to do with outreach to schools. Because again, as we've discussed many times before, we'd love to establish a relationship with the parochial school in town. We don't do any outreach to local daycares unless they reach out to us first. So we'd really like to focus on that for FY24. And otherwise, just basically keep doing what we've been doing. So again, it's really not all that different. I think the one action that I added in for FY24 that's not been in any other action plan was that the library will begin work on a new strategic plan. That's the only new action. Others might have been tweaked a little with, the word continue instead of the word do. We're continuing it because we've already established it. But anyway, I'm hoping that even though some of you aren't, you're just seeing it for the first time a few minutes ago, that you'll trust me to submit it as is, and it's due December 1st, which is why time is of the essence. But again, it's really not all that different than the ones certainly the one you approved last year. And a lot of that is, like I said, is just because we don't have time to do the things we would like to do. Or all the things we would like to do.
Does anyone have any comments, questions, or? No? All right, well, then we can, if we're all good, we can just make a motion to put this through.
I'll make a motion to accept the strategic plan.
Second it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving right along to fine-free library.
Which this was in the action plan for FY23 to evaluate our fine system and discuss the impact of that. So look at us checking off things from the action plan. Who knew, right? So I've been planting the seed, I think, for a while now about talking about becoming a fine-free library. And if I'm going to go through it with you all today. And if at the end of that you feel you'd like a little more time to think about it, then we can, certainly carry this over to the next meeting. I'm not trying to rush anyone into a decision about this. In my head, I have a little time frame I'd like to work off of. Our 7th anniversary of having relocated here to 232 Middle Road is on December 21st. So I'd kind of love to know that we could go fine-free for December 21st. And the network does need about a month or so to do the back-end work. But again, that said, certainly this could be voted on and discussed again in another meeting if it's just too much information at once to process, because it is a lot of information. And I did give you all a breakdown of this, and I'm going to go through it now as well, because it's a big decision to make. I gave you the world's worst chart on the back of the packet that you have to look at money. I just wanted to give you a visual of the drop we've seen in fine intake, but that's certainly not the kind of graph or chart you use when talking about money, and I'm aware of that, but staffing levels, no time, so this is what you get. It was more for the colors, okay? Give you something pretty to look at as I'm talking now. Okay. I've presented you with becoming a fine-free library. Why should we in Acushnet consider following this national movement to not penalize our patrons with fines? Here we go. The first, I think, we have jokes with the staff where we'll say reason number 77 to be fine free after something happens. Or reason number 91. I'm not giving you 91 reasons, I'm giving you about 5. First and foremost, it's goodwill with our patrons. I think there is definitely still a stereotype of libraries being quiet in the library. The librarian's gonna get mad at you if you're loud. The shushing. There's a lot of stereotypes. Another stereotype is that if I don't return this book today, I'm gonna owe them $200. And then there's some fear that plays into that returning the book that's late because you don't want to be hit with a large fine. A lot of people don't know that the cap on fines is only $2. So even if you return something 2 years late, it's still only $2 per item. But anyway, there is that creates sort of an uncomfortable or sometimes awkward balance between us and our patrons. So goodwill is first and foremost. We hope our patrons trust us and that we're providing the best service that we can for them, providing the best material we can for them. But then we want them to know that we trust them and that when they take the books from the library, they're going to return them, whether or not they're going to owe a nickel if they're a day late with the book or $2 if they're 2 years late with the book. We want there to be just a good, healthy relationship with our patrons. And as we did talk about at a recent meeting, as of July 1st, old fines, so that's 3 or more years old on inactive cards are being removed by the sales network. So that to me almost translates to that we're sort of like only holding our regular patrons accountable for paying fines. So in other words, if you aren't like regularly visiting the library, well, just wait a little while and your fines will be cleared off and you won't, owe the library any money. But if you're someone who's at the library on a weekly or monthly basis, you might be hit with a fine because you're a few days late for something. So that sends an odd message, again, when we're trying to have that good relationship with our patrons. It, to me, sends an odd message, which is something that I never really thought too much about in this way until sales announced their plans for fines. And what they're doing makes total sense to me. But then it made me rethink a few things too. We've seen a sharp decrease in fine intake since automatic renewals came about, which was in late 2018. So you can see that on the graph, that we did see a decrease. At the same time, we've seen a substantial increase, at least 55%. This number will go higher as a result of what we've just learned we're getting for state aid for the that should be being deposited any day now. So it'll be even more, but we have seen an overall 55% increase in our state aid since FY16, which is amazing. But when we established the revolving fund, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a minute, and that's the revolving fund is where fine money currently goes, it was to supplement our appropriated budget. So you could make the argument that that's a reason to keep it because it's supplementing the appropriated budget. However, since we're receiving so much more in state aid than we were when the revolving fund was established, having less in the revolving fund isn't too concerning to me when I look at those numbers. And, say $1,300 annually in fines versus goodwill. Oh, we stopped talking about the budget and look, see? Now we're talking about good stuff until the lights come back on. To me, that amount of money isn't worth the headache that fines can sometimes cause. Because as a side note, there are sometimes uncomfortable moments at the counter when someone is understandably upset because they're being told they owe X amount of money. They thought they returned the items on time. They didn't realize the items were even late. It can sometimes cause an awkward encounter for the patron, I think, and also for the staff member who's on the receiving end of that. And other libraries in the area are embracing this for sure. There are 20 sales libraries which have switched to being fine-free. And nearby, those libraries include Fairhaven, Freetown, Marion, and Rochester. Those are the ones closest to us. I do think this is a trend. There are some networks in the state that the entire network has gone fine-free. So I do think, you know, this is something that we're going to be hearing more and more about. And I'd rather be at the front of it than be behind it and have people be upset that we're still charging fines when other libraries aren't. I did provide you with a little fines of history section, just so that, again, it's a big decision, and I want you to understand where we're at and where I'm coming from. Before the relocation, and even once we had first relocated, fines and fees went to the general fund, so they were turned over to the town. I think a lot of patrons then, and still now, think they're making a donation to the library when they pay a fine. They'll often say, this is my donation to the library. When the money wasn't coming to us, it was kind of like, oh, well, thanks, but that's going to the town. The Board of Trustees reviewed, some of you were on the board at that time, reviewed and proposed a revolving fund, which was approved at Fall Town Meeting in November of 2016. So at that point, all the money that was collected for fines started going into the library's revolving fund, which is used to supplement our appropriated budget, as I've already said. At that time, the average in fine collection was $3,200 a year, which was pretty substantial, especially for a library of our size. In FY19, the sales network introduced automatic renewals, which I've mentioned already. The fine intake decreased by $600 between FY18 and 19 due to that automatic renewal initiative. So that's when we started to see the decline. By March of 2020, the fine intake for the year was just over $1,800. And you can project from March to June and figure out that we were probably on track to take in even less than, that decrease was $600 between 18 and 19. It probably would have been a higher decrease between 19 and 20. And then, COVID happened and we didn't collect fines at all from March 20th of 2020 through May 1st of 2021, which meant that's why you see hardly any line at all on your pretty graph, because in FY21 we only took in $66.70. And yet we still managed just fine with supplementing our budget. So please, yes, we didn't have hardly any fines at all, and we still did. We met what we needed to meet for our expenditure requirements with the state with no trouble. FY22, we only took in a little over $1,300, and so far this fiscal year we've taken in just over $600, which I think is going to line us up pretty equally for FY23 and 22. A couple of other things just to mention. When I say go fine free, it's for books, audiobooks, CDs, magazines, DVDs, and music CDs. I would still recommend keeping the fines for museum passes because the loan period on those is so short, and there would be no incentive for someone to return a pass for weeks if there was no fine associated. And anything that falls under the category of equipment, which would primarily right now be our telescope, and we also loan out laptops at the counter to be used in-house, and there are fines assessed on those if they're not returned within the time frame that we expect them back at the desk. If we were to get hotspots back again one day, that would fall under equipment, and we would want to have fines for hotspots. So I'd be looking at keeping fines for museum passes and equipment, and that's in line with what other libraries are doing in the area for the most part. Some other things to consider are digital usage, as you know, has increased tremendously since 2020, and there are no fines associated with digital content use. So that's also sending a message that people who borrow physical items and actually come into the building might get charged late fees, whereas if you're borrowing digitally, there's no chance to be late, which is why there are no late fees, because the item disappears from your device when it's due. However, though, that may give someone more incentive to borrow from us digitally, which is great. We're happy that they do that, but we also want people to come here and borrow physical items. So that's something to keep in mind. Patrons will still receive overdue notices when items are late. The revolving fund will still have money deposited into it. Anything overdue for things like museum passes and equipment, the money would still go into the revolving fund, along with money collected from printing and faxing, that goes into the revolving fund, and money collected from lost book charges. So while we would have no fine charges, if someone doesn't return an item, they would be sent a lost due notice and would be expected to pay the replacement cost of the book. The same way they are now. Right now they get the notice 90 days after the item is due. And you know, some people pay those charges and some people don't. We never get the items back like we've talked about before, because years go by and they're still out and eventually they get cycled out of the system. But some people do come in and pay them. I mean, a number of people do. So they still would get those charges down, and we would have the option to change that so that they wouldn't get 90 days necessarily, but if we're going fine free, you might want to alter that to, some libraries go 30 days past the overdue, some libraries are doing 42 to 45 days, which is about 6 weeks after the item is due, or some go 60, some go 90, and it's like a wide net of what libraries are doing. So that's something else to talk about. Patrons who look at fines as donations can still donate to the library's gift fund or to the Friends of the Acushnet Library. They could become a member for as little as $10 and support the library in that way. Existing fines that are on people's accounts right now would be wiped away by the network, and fines would still be charged if an Acushnet patron went to a library that charges fines and borrowed an item from that library, because it goes by the lending library's circulation rules. So if they were borrowing items here, they wouldn't get fines. But if they went to, say, Dartmouth and borrowed from Dartmouth, and Dartmouth still has fines in place, then they would owe money to Dartmouth. So that's something we'll make sure we communicate to people if we move forward with this. Yeah, and that's basically it in a nutshell. Again, I know it's a lot of information. I think it's something, when I saw that, I worked at New York Public, as you know, that's where I started my career at New York Public Library. I was there for almost 10 years. And when I saw that New York Public Library went fine free, which was earlier this year, I believe, it was like, oh my gosh, that's New York Public Library, what took that step? I mean, this is happening across the country and the world, I'm sure, in public libraries outside of the US. But the more I read about libraries that are doing this and that are making headlines for doing it, the more I feel like, wow, this totally makes sense, you know, like this, why are we penalizing the regular people who come here all the time and support us with their patronage by charging them what might seem like a small amount of money, you know, 5 cents here, 10 cents there, but to someone else that might seem like an awful lot of money. One of the key things we talk about all the time with public libraries is how we want to be inclusive and how we want the public library to be for everyone. But fines in a lot of ways could be a barrier to someone using the library, especially if they have that fear that they're going to owe a lot of money. So, you know, I'll also add a lot of libraries have reported that when they implement something like this, they get books back that they haven't seen in years because that fear gets...
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of evidence, statistical evidence showing these crazy return rates because that fear is removed and that barrier is removed.
Do you have room for those books?
Yeah, chances are if they're that old, we don't necessarily want them back. We may have already replaced them. So who knows what would happen to those, but we would still be very happy to have them back and to welcome back people who maybe have felt they can't use the library because they can't afford to pay the late fees. I mean, we're here, we do say that all the time, we're here for everyone, and I think going fine free would certainly show people that, especially, I mean, call it whatever you want. We're all dealing with tough financial times right now. I think we're all feeling the crunch at least somewhere in your life. And if you're not feeling any kind of crunch, you're certainly very, very lucky, and I'm happy for you. But I think a lot of us are feeling a crunch, and it would, I think, again, back to that goodwill, just being able to tell people, you don't have to worry about that crunch here at the library. We want you to come in, we want you to use your material. Yes, we want you to return it. But, and again, a lot of libraries are not seeing any like abuse of people just taking their time. I think people, almost it becomes a, well, I gotta get this back, someone might be waiting for it. And so it take, you know, I'm gonna be good to my neighbor and make sure I return this because my neighbor's waiting for this book, you know? But I think taking the fines out of it would be great, and I think we'd get great feedback from our patrons as a result. But again, that said, there's no pressure if you don't agree with me. But you know, the Board of Trustees do set the fine rates for the library. That happened even before the revolving fund. But the revolving fund is very much the library's revolving fund. So this is your decision. It's not my decision. It's the board. It's 100% your decision. And if you don't agree for whatever reason, you could table that right now, and we'll talk about it another time, and I'll just try to persuade you another time. But I think, wow, what a great 7th anniversary gift, going fine free for December 21st, and great start to the new year, blah, blah. I'll stop now. So here. Any questions or concerns that you want to address?
Covered everything.
Thoughts? Any thoughts? What are the thoughts?
Fine with this.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it too. I think library fines can create a lot of anxiety in people, and you said awkward situations, and a lot of people just will keep the book instead of having that confrontation, and
Yeah.
that's not what a library wants or
I'm listening.
any
Keep
part of
talking.
it. So I agree with going fine free. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I do too.
I don't know if you remember that I had a book, I had a fine that I didn't know about. And the librarian, and I can't remember who that was, said, oh, I think it was 35 cents. And she was embarrassed to tell me. And I said, oh, all right. And I'm looking for change. And you said, Joe, you don't have to pay a fine, you're a trustee. And I said, okay. And I felt so bad for her. I can't remember. Honestly, it was way back. And I thought, that would avoid this.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it was 35 cents and she was afraid to say it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And
you said
it-
because you've had reactions to
Correct.
very
Yeah,
Yes.
I wasn't fighting at all.
Right.
Some
yeah.
unpleasant
And you might
ones.
not have been fighting, but if they've had an experience in the past where somebody has
Well, oh,
given
yeah,
them,
yeah, yeah,
then
I'm
that's
sure there
in
was a
their heads.
reason.
And so that
It
it
certainly
does
wasn't
become-
the amount.
Right.
It was just.
Right. And I think that to go along with that, some of the staff are really good about telling people, hey, you know, if you've got some change on you, you owe 25 cents. Other staff members won't tell people because they are uncomfortable, which I understand. But then that also creates an awkward experience a couple months later when a patron
it
says, well, why
accumulates.
did nobody tell me about
Right.
this?
If it's
Right.
just like 5 cents here and there, and then
Correct,
it's like
and no one's told
no
them.
one's telling you, and
Right.
then it's
I mean,
$2,
right.
which is, you know,
Which is probably just what happened.
right.
Right.
You know, I was in it all the time.
Sure.
Like,
And with the auto renewals, which, and I don't think anyone loves auto renewals as much as I do. I think that was such a genius thing for the network to do. But say you're a parent, and a lot of our parents check out 20 books at a time because they've got either multiple kids with them, or they're just, they want that variety of books to choose from. You take 20 books home, 19 of those books auto-renew and 1 doesn't. And the network will send you a notice that says, your book's auto-renewed. They'll also send a notice that says, yeah, that 1 book didn't renew. But starting, I think it's already started. If it hasn't started yet, it's starting soon. The network is not going to put a title in any notification they send you for privacy reasons. So you could get a notice and have no idea which one did not auto-renew, or because we're so inundated with messages in our lives, whether it's text or email, whatever you're getting, you might miss the one that said you have the book that's due. So then you get to the counter and well, I thought they all auto-renewed, and then there's that one that didn't, and you're returning it, 3 weeks late, and then you owe the, whatever a nickel a day is for 3 weeks. And so that's uncomfortable also. We spend a lot of time talking about fines with people at the counter, or there's also one thing I didn't even mention. Handling cash is not comfortable for everybody, and doing math to make change isn't comfortable for everyone. So we spend a lot of time talking about how we have to be super careful with our cash box, and our cash box has to match the cash report that we receive from the network. And They are really good, but it causes the staff a lot of stress. So removing this would save staff time, which to me is a lot, and save staff stress levels, which to me is means way more than $1,300. Like,
Yes.
never
Yeah.
mind the goodwill for the
Yeah.
patrons.
The world is stressful enough. Let's
Correct.
take one thing out, you know?
Correct.
Yeah,
I think you're killing Nancy with that
But
comment.
not all of us, Nancy, not all of us. But some of us. But what Danielle said about the anxiety, I saw something on Facebook last week that had nothing to do with this library or this town, or it might not even have been Massachusetts, but someone had shared, and it was then like in a suggested for you post. Someone wrote, "Last week I returned a book that was 16 years overdue. I've avoided the public library since I was 15 out of shame for never returning this book. I kept up with it and it moved with me roughly 10 times because I always wanted to take it back. When I finally worked up the nerve and walked it in, the librarians were so kind. They made sure I still had my card and told me all about the upcoming events for November." He or she ended it with, "We do not deserve librarians." And that may or may not be true, but that's real. I mean, people really do feel that way. We see people come in with hanging their head low, or we just had a family last week. The mom knew she had to come to the desk and talk about something. She didn't want to just dump it in the book drop. She wanted to come to the desk and be upfront about it. And some people are good with doing that, and others, don't want to address it. So, and this is a legit story. So when I saw that, I said, I'm going to screenshot that for the meeting. And I didn't remember that I had done that until Danielle
That's
talked about the
impressive, 10
anxiety.
moves.
10 moves, 16
I know, just think of all the anxiety in their life. Every time they see that book, they're like, oh.
Correct.
Every time they moved.
Every time packing it, unpacking it.
And just making themselves feel bad. And we don't want people to have that association.
Hopefully she didn't move far away. Take a plane to go return that book.
Right? Yeah. So, anyway, again, thoughts, questions, a reason as to why we shouldn't do it, anybody? Again.
For all those reasons.
That increase in state aid alone, to me, like really, when you look at those numbers, 55%. I mean, I think this coming year, we're going to get, I actually think that what we just got, with the award letter we just got for the over $13,000, I believe my first year here, that's what we got for the entire year. Like, I have to look back on that, but I believe that's what the award was for the entire year. This is the first of 2 payments that we're getting. So that right there, and I'm not saying, hey, we don't need the money. We need the money, but to supplement our book material budget, or our physical material budget, or digital material, I guess now too, that $1,300 is made up for in that state aid, which again, we get, it keeps going up because our usage keeps going up, and because our usage to non-Acushnet residents keeps going up. And so the state, that's one of the things they use to calculate that award amount. So again, whatever, I'm just gonna keep going, so you just don't stop. Like, I never imagined, like 5 years ago, if you had asked me this question, I don't think I would have felt as passionately about it as I do now. But the more too that you just work with people and you listen to what people are saying, and just the basic fact that we could all, how much better would it be if we all knew we didn't owe $2 to something that, was maybe a small amount of money, but it's still my $2. So.
Well, if you don't have any more comments, do you want to put it to a vote?
Yes.
All right, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to go to fine-free process.
Second it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Historic vote. That's great.
So that's in December?
We will keep the fines for the museum passes, the equipment, and
Yes.
the,
Yes.
Yes.
but everything else will
Everything
be
else.
fine-free.
And I'm gonna contact the network right away and see if we can get it for that December 21st date, so we won't officially announce anything yet in terms of date. That's gonna be my goal. I'm also gonna write a letter, hopefully with Jen, to the Board of Selectmen, letting them know that the trustees have made this decision.
I think
So
you
that-
should,
those will be
I
the-
think it was the graph that put us over the top with that decision. I don't know that anything else that you said was just kind of okay, but I think it was the graph that really just pushed us in that direction.
Okay, so
No one else is to see that graph aside from the people in this room. I might as well have gotten out a box of crayons and just drew it for you. Good Lord.
okay, books, videos, and what else?
It's audiobooks, magazines, DVDs, music CDs. I'm sorry, did you say this?
I don't know.
Okay. So it's books, audiobooks, CDs, magazines, DVDs, and music CDs.
Okay, no baking pans?
Well, the baking pans fall under equipment, but we're not, nobody
Okay.
checks those out, so I'm not sure we're even gonna keep them
Okay.
going. Maybe the friends will want to add them to their sale. We're debating about that right now, about what to do about those. So if anyone's watching this, we do have cake pans and the holiday season's here, so if you need a Santa cookie cutter, we're your place.
Pie plates?
What's that?
Pie plates?
We don't have any pie plates. Sorry. Yeah, so that's great, thank you. So the next steps, I'll contact the network and we'll write that letter just announcing our plan and we'll get the publicity going for the public. So thank you all very much. And I do also just want to say that when the trustees established the revolving fund in 2016. That was a huge deal at the time. We had so much support from the the town administrator at that time, who was very excited that we were getting a revolving fund. And I don't want this to negate the fact that the trustees worked really hard at that time to get a revolving fund. And again, we still have money going into the revolving fund, so we will still have that. So. Okay, thank you.
All right, we will move to the next topic, which is the library hours related to Christmas and New Year's holidays.
So specifically, we're talking about the eves of those holidays today. The AFSCME staff, which are technicians and the custodian, in the AFSCME contract, the hours for Christmas and New Year's Eves it indicates that staff get a half-day holiday for those. So it's my understanding that Town Hall is closing at 11 o'clock on Friday, the 23rd, to give the staff there a half-day holiday, and they're also closing then at the same time on Friday, the 30th, to give staff the half-day holiday for New Year's Eve. Because we're open on Saturdays, of course, this rule can't apply to us. We are open till 5 p.m. on Fridays, which we will be on the 23rd and the 30th. But this library, in my tenure, and I've looked back previously, has never been open on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. This is not the year where we're going to start opening on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. So the library board sets the hours. You have voted in the past to officially close the library for Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, so I'm going to ask you to do that again for this year. I have been, I first reached out to the town administrator when let me back pedal a little. In the prior year with the AFSCME contract, one of our staff members had worked very hard and diligently on a side letter of agreement that outlined the holidays specifically for the library, because as we've talked about numerous times, library hours are very different from town hall hours. We're doing our own thing over here, which is necessary to meet the needs of the community. Plus, we're required to be open 40 hours. And we have to do that at times that work for the people who are using the building. So that's one of the reasons why we're open in the evening and on Saturdays. So that side letter of agreement, that side letter of agreement clearly outlined the library, and the holidays worked great. Now that staff member is no longer here, so because they left for a full-time job elsewhere. So, but she had done such a great job, and unfortunately that didn't happen during the negotiations for this current contract that the union staff just signed for this fiscal year. So when I saw the contract and saw that the half-day holiday was in there, I reached out to the town administrator. I've been communicating with him about this since the beginning of October, and still don't have an answer on what this means for the AFSCME staff. I've reached out again today. I've reached out a few times since October 5th, but I reached out again today, and I was told by the assistant in the selectman's office that the person that needs to be spoken to is on vacation and won't be back until November 20th. So hopefully we know for sure what's happening with the absentee staff. I mean, no one is coming to work that day. And that one way or another, they're going to get, fairly treated by me. But I'm hoping that we get a answer to this discussion, and I'm really hoping that, and I wish I had been asked about this when the contract was being negotiated, but that never happens. But again, if communication happened a little more, then I could have said this. I anticipate this is going to be a problem every time a holiday falls on a day that the library is open and town hall isn't, and that didn't happen. But hopefully, going forward, some adjustments can be made so that library staff is recognized in a slightly different way. I'm not asking for any special favors, but something that just shows the difference between library hours and town hall hours. That all said, what I'm really looking for you all to do is just officially, as you've done before, vote to close the library officially for Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. That's the bottom line of what I need from you. Can we get a motion to do that?
I make a motion to close the library on December 24th and the 31st.
I second
The
it.
30th, right? Oh, no,
Oh,
31st.
31st.
Yeah.
Okay.
And all in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Thank you. And the last order of new business on the agenda is the donation from the Acushnet Road Race.
What an awesome way to end new business. Not necessarily for the road race, because I know that's beloved in town, but John Braun, who I don't know if he's the head of the committee for the road race. I think he has been the head. That's the correct thing to call him, the head of the committee. Run the Acushnet Road Race for years. He's retiring, so they made the decision to disband the Acushnet Road Race, which you may not have heard. They do have money left in their account as a result of the years of hard work and what they've done. And the committee was discussing what to do with the money, and pretty awesomely, they decided to donate it to the Acushnet Public Library, which is like very unexpected and very exciting. The only stipulation that's on the donation, and stipulation doesn't seem like the exact right word, but they would like a plaque that they're going to pay for, that we would put on the wall, that just lists all the members of the Acushnet Road Race Committee, and it acknowledges that they've made a donation to the Acushnet Public Library. We did discuss perhaps using that donation towards like the next concert series in the next summer, or just the summer reading events period for next summer. But the day that Mr. Braun dropped off the check, he did say that it's ours now and we can do what we want with it. But I do think using it towards the concert series, where we could announce every week that it was supported by the Acushnet Road Race, I think would be also a nice way to commemorate the road race. So what you'll need to do today is discuss the donation, accept the donation from the Acushnet Road Race, and then also approve the plaque, which would just be, it's not a large plaque at all. I've already identified where it can go on the wall near the copy machine, and it, like I said, would just list the members' names of the committee essentially.
How much was it?
So the donation is for $3,000. And so that's someone, if you accept that, will make a motion to accept it, and then also make a motion to accept that. Accept the plaque.
Anybody have anything? No?
Very
Okay.
nice of them to do that.
Yes, absolutely.
A lot of places they could have given their money.
Yes.
We will miss the road race.
Much
but-
appreciated.
But it is appreciated.
So when I was first hired, some of you will remember, I was actually running races when I first met some of you, and was on my way to a goal I had for completing a certain number of half marathons. And so one of the first races that I ran after, official races that I ran after setting that goal was the Acushnet Road Race, which I had no idea, like, could have, like, was a slightly hilly course in some ways, but like in unexpected places, that like elevation was just unexpected, but also the year that I ran it twice, but the first time I ran it, it was like hot as, like the hottest day. It wasn't, you know, and it was always Labor Day weekend, right? And it was like a 90-degree day. It was like straight humidity. So my before and after photos are pretty hilarious. But while I was running, it was so exciting because the Friends of the Library used to ban the water tables. So the Friends of the Acushnet Library were handing out water, which was great. And it was great to see my new, you know, friends on the course when I was running, and I had said that the next year I would run with a board for the library, which I did not do, but after not running it anymore, I came back every year to help the friends do the water. So this to me is a neat, like, that's a totally like personal story, but it's a full circle thing for me of like, wow, that's so cool that they did choose the library, and I really will make sure that we do well by this money and that it serves residents and serves the community. And it's not the same. The road race will be really missed. I miss it. Just doing the water part. It's always exciting to see patrons on the course. So I'll certainly miss it as well, but we do appreciate.
I think it's a nice idea to use it for the concerts, because so many of the people who participated come to the concerts.
True.
So-
Yeah.
All right, we need 2 motions. We need to accept the donation and we need to accept the plaque.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the donation and to get the plaque.
Second it,
Both of them.
both of them.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm gonna abstain because I'm a member of the road race committee, just in terms
Noted.
of conflict.
And I will deposit that check tomorrow. So I've been hanging on to it for this meeting, so I will get that deposited tomorrow
All right,
into the library's gift account,
perfect.
which is noted on the check. Thank you, Mr. Braun.
Moving on to the director's report.
All right, so I'm not gonna really go into that too much. Talk to your ears off in between our last meeting and this meeting. You give me a lot of your time, and I appreciate that. But I do just want to point out again that the Mass Board of Library Commissioners met November 3rd, and as I've already said in this meeting, the initial award for Acushnet for the state aid cycle is $13,713.37. Acushnet's highest ever first award, and like I said, I'm pretty sure that's right around what we were getting for the entire year when I started here. So this is a big increase, and we should be receiving those funds into our state aid account very soon. And the second installment will be announced in the spring. So that is very exciting. The Friends of the Library met last week to approve their 2023 budget, and they will provide over $8,500 in funds to the library in 2023. This is through, the funds go towards the Museum Pass program. They'll support our summer program and other programs throughout the throughout the calendar year. They take on our copy machine annual maintenance contract. They spray for Mosquito Squad during that season. So those are just a few of the things that they do, but then they'll do so much more with that money. They had a great response to their 2022 membership drive, which helps them be able to support this budget for next year, which is great. They also approved funding a plate glass tabletop, which will be in 2 pieces, for the new book display table in the main area. Ever since that table was moved out to the main area, that used to be the trustees meeting table, that nice big wooden table, right? It was right here. We had to move it out in the summer of 2019 because we had this giant inflatable dinosaur in the room and they couldn't inflate the dinosaur with the table, so we had to move the table out. And then once the table got out there, it was like, wow, this is a great new book table. What a neat way. but it's had this really not very pretty tablecloth on top of it to protect it since it was moved out to the main area. And it's something we've talked about replacing, and the Friends are able to do that for us. It should be arriving this week. So please take a look when you're there. So we'll now actually be able to see the beautiful table that came from the Russell Memorial Library and was refinished by an Acushnet resident who used to do, and Mr. Waskiel did that for us, and it will now be, I think, enjoyed even more by people who are browsing at the new book table. So thank you to the Friends for supporting us as they do. And I lastly want to mention they're holding 2 events in December. One is a wreath and greens sale. They have a limited amount of wreaths that they're putting together. Some will be decorated, some will just have a bow. The prices range from, I think it's $25 to $30. $20 to $30. They're also selling green bundles. They've started to collect those. So people, the public will be invited to come to the library on Saturday, December 3rd from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. or until the items are sold out, before 12 p.m. And all the money will support the Friends of the Library. We'll also indoors be holding, or they will be holding, not we, they will be holding a book and like new puzzle sale that day. The puzzles will be $2 a piece, and the books that are in this room will be 10 for $1. So you'll be able to get 10 books for $1. There are large print books, which is something you don't always see in sales. Large print books and a lot of children's picture books. So I think it'll be a good day for people to come to the Acushnet Library, support the Friends with this fundraiser, and then the money all comes back to supporting their budget, which supports the library. Melissa will be holding a story time at 10:30 a.m. that morning as well. So if people are here for the sale and they bring their kids, she'll do the story time at 10:30. And then on December 10th, we still have space. I'm surprised, not much space.
I'm surprised.
I'm surprised too, but the sign up just started yesterday, but there will be a free decorative wreath making workshop. I've seen decorative wreath making workshops going this year for like $100 if you want to get together with your friends and go to a decorative wreath making workshop, but our Friends will be holding one for free in memory of longtime Friends member and co-founder of the Friends, Connie Preston. They're going to hold that in her memory on Saturday, December 10th, at 10 a.m. So if you would like to come make a decorative wreath, someone who is very adept at doing that will be here to show you how, and you will have a beautiful wreath to take home and enjoy for the season. And finally, on this Saturday, if anyone sees this before then, if you have a dinosaur lover in your family, we have a Dino-Vember trivia contest for ages 7 to 9. You must pre-register. We have one session at 11 a.m. and another at 1 p.m. So if you have someone in your family who's between the ages of 7 and 9 and loves dinosaurs, or even just kind of likes dinosaurs and wants to come to a fun program at the library, Dino-Vember Trivia will be happening. So I think that'll be a fun time. And if you just take a quick look at the statistics, you'll see we're certainly up from last year. If you look overall at the children's column, it does look like we've dropped a little. I mean, we have. It doesn't just look like it, we have. But I just want to note that where we're seeing a decrease in the children's circulation is not in books, but is in DVDs. Less people are borrowing DVDs from the children's room collection. I think so many people have streaming services now, and kids' movies are readily available. So our adult DVD circulation is increasing, but the DVD circulation in the children's room is definitely decreasing, and that explains why there's a decrease overall from the children's column. So I just want to make sure you're noting that it's not the books. But it's nice to once again see us getting back to those pre-COVID numbers. And the day that we're back to 2019 will be a really happy day for me. So when we can get back to that golden year.
The people counter is back up.
The people counter is back up. We're seeing an increase in computer usage. We started to see a decrease in computer usage. We're seeing an increase in computer usage, and I'm glad you mentioned the people counter, because it's also, I think, important to note that the study room use for the month of October, we had 43 people use the study rooms. That's the highest ever of any month ever. So I think that the word is definitely getting out to people who work at home or maybe just need a quiet space to come do some work, that our study rooms are clean, safe, nice spaces, and they can come, for up to 2 hours a day and use the study rooms. So. And if no one's waiting, they can have it longer than 2 hours. Anyway, so that's what I have for you today.
I have a comment.
Yes.
Several times during this meeting, you have mentioned things that haven't been done or were late or whatever due to staffing issues.
Yes.
And I think it's important to state the staffing issues are not because your people are not doing a job,
Right.
or it's more to do with we keep losing people, good people, because we're not competitive here with salaries, and I think it's not just this building, it's across the town, but that's an awful thing we're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've lost so many good people that work that front desk, and it's just, and we can see where it's creating problems. You can only keep picking up the slack so long. Takes so long to train new people. So
I appreciate you saying that. There's a definite backlog
it's
every
a big
time.
problem.
And I
here.
think that, there was a time that I maybe managed that a little bit better, and so that you didn't know that things were getting kind of shoved to the wayside, or ugly graphs were being created at the time. I think that I've reached a point where I'm not going to make the pretty graph at 1 o'clock in the morning from home so that you get a pretty graph. I think I'm finally at a point where I realize I have to be honest and show you that there are cracks here every single time someone leaves. So we're short a staff member now, which is one of our staff issues, and that position is only 8 hours a week, which you think, is nothing, but it's definitely something. I worked to cover those shifts 2 times last week. I almost had to stay to cover tonight, but fortunately someone was able to come in because we had a sick call. So the other downside is, we have a almost completely part-time staff. When one person is pulled out of that rotation because of they're not feeling well, we're then scratching at who can stay, and it can be a pretty desperate situation. And the techs are, like you said, they're the face of the library. They're the first person that a patron sees when they walk in. They're sometimes the only person a patron interacts with when they're here. And it's been a revolving door since last spring of people. We the same day that our last staff member who retired a couple of weeks ago, when she left, her last day was the 6-month anniversary of our newest employee, which just shows you that we've just got this constant turnover, which is definitely worrisome to existing staff, and I think particularly Sandra and I, who have to now train someone all over again. And we're not getting a lot of interest in that 8-hour position, probably because it's an 8-hour position and people need more than that right now. So
I think you only work 8 hours or 12. It takes so long for somebody to really become proficient at what they're doing, which means you are constantly not able to do everything you need to do because you're always training someone. So it's just...
That's a key thing, I think, that you just said. You used the word proficient. When you're only here 8 or 12 hours a week, even when you're only here 19 hours a week and the building's open 45, there is no time to become proficient. Or you see a problem come up one time and then you don't see it come up for months and months and months. So when it comes up, you don't know how to solve that problem, because you might have a little memory of, I know I've dealt with this before, but where do I find that answer? So the staff are very much frequently relying on Sandra and I to problem solve for them, because they, even if they're awesome people and they're very good at their jobs, they can only be so good as they can be good, because they're only
kid in school forever.
Correct.
Exactly.
And we had a staff that was here for a long time. We had a very long time, and I'm only going to give 7 years. It takes a long time with a grain of salt, but we had a crew that was here, you know, like and worked very well together. And as they started to leave, and we had people come in to replace them, it's been very hard to get back to sort of that level where I knew I didn't have to be out in the front or listening to hear what was happening. Are they going to need me to step in? And I know Sandra feels the same way. And I mean, currently, there's only 2 people who, other than Sandra and I, who were here before COVID. Where like we got like the before times and the after times coming here, and that's an adjustment in itself. So I mean, I appreciate you acknowledging that and saying it, and then you know, not that you asked for my 2 cents, but it gives me an opportunity to say that yes. That it's certainly not, when I say that short on staff or staffing levels are an issue, it's not a knock at the staff at all. But it's just because we just have that turnover, and I don't know when this position is going to get filled that's open right now. And that's existing staff, you know, is helping the best they can to make up for that, which is great. But yeah, so when people start taking their vacation time too, because again, you know, even if they've only been here a short time, they have a great union contract that provides them with, as they should, with sick time and personal time and vacation time, and but then that means that there's times where they're not here because they're using their well-earned time off. So yeah, so thank you. Backlog. Can't do things because, right, I'm a glorified desk clerk. Anyway, thank you.
Do we want to set the next meeting date?
Do you? No, you might be like, this one again? No. I would like to see you one more time before the end of the year, just to be able to, I think, especially like update you on what happens with going fine-free and that whole thing. So otherwise I would say, well, let's take December off, but I'll keep it brief when we get there. Plus we may have to discuss something about the budget, who knows? So I'm looking at either December 6th or December 13th.
Can't do the 6th.
Okay, well good, because that wasn't my first choice. So my second, December 8th, a Thursday would also be an option, or if we want to keep with the Tuesdays, then December 13th at 4, if that's a possibility.
That's the 13th.
13th works for me.
13th, I can make.
I can't do the 13th.
You can. How about the 8th date?
Yeah,
The
Thursday the 8th.
Thursday the 8th work for everyone?
That's okay for me.
I think it works for me.
Yeah.
Jerry, does the 8th work for you?
Sorry, yeah.
Diane,
It's all set.
8th works for you? Steve, good?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yeah.
8th?
Yep.
Does that work for you?
Yep.
Okay, 4 o'clock? Is that still good for everyone?
Yeah, it's like 4 o'clock.
Can we push it a little bit later? Like,
Yeah.
Maybe just like 15 minutes.
You want to do 4:30?
Yeah, 4:30.
4:30, is that okay with everybody?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll do Thursday, December 8th at 4:30.
And my gift is that my holiday gift to you will be that I will try to keep it as brief as possible. If it's not brief, it won't be my doing. Let's put it that way.
Well, you have a lot to share with us.
Yeah, this might have been like, I don't know. Yeah. We don't usually talk about the budget this early, so like that was something that would normally happen at this time. I kind of thought it was just gonna be the action plan, fine, brief, but surprise. Again, we got that great donation to talk about too, so that's good.
All right, if we are set, we need a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This November 15th, 2022 meeting of the Acushnet Public Library Board of Trustees is officially adjourned. It is 5:15. Thank you.